Finally back in a rotary car, and it has been way too long. The first rotary car that was ever on this channel was an FB 2-stroke where you had to mix the gas. So you go to the gas station and have to measure everything out. This is what technology does. So the RX-8 is the last rotary car ever built by Mazda. So Mazda did the whole Dorito and the Pringles can thing, and they loved it, and they shipped it out everywhere. But the thing about the RX-8, for some reason, is kind of the black sheep of the bunch. So you have the FB praised overall. You have the FD especially, super praised. FC, most people like those too. Kind of went in reverse, sorry about that. But the RX-8 is like, yeah, they're all right for most people, but they don't look into it. The thing is there was a lot of lemons in the RX-8, at least in my experience. I don't know about everybody else's, but in my experience, I had 2 friends that had them. One went through 3 engines and the other went through 2. But I want to say that one of the contributing factors was not knowing how a rotary operates. So the reason, what I'm saying is one of my friends in college who had one, he would turn the car on, and if he needed to move to a different parking spot, he just wouldn't let it run at all. He would just kind of turn it on and go to the next spot, turn it off. And what did that do? Well, it flooded the engine. Here was David being called by his buddy going, hey, I think my car's dead. And the belts would just turn. That's all that would happen. And eventually we would deflood it and everything else. But then he had to get a new motor after that. So that's a lot of my memories with the RX-8. But the even better memory with the RX-8 with me is how good the handling is. And the thing is too, if you don't rev these engines up, it doesn't like you. You have to rev it up. It kind of keeps it kind of healthy. So I knew a guy named Michael in Virginia who never had issues, and this kid had off-roaded his RX-8 and it never broke. So you never know sometimes. So past that, let's talk about the actual car itself. It's a 1.3 liter engine, but it doesn't get the best gas mileage, but that's not why you buy a sports car. Along with that, the tachometer's in the middle, and it revs basically almost to 9,000 RPM. And the rotary creates this very odd sound compared to a piston motor. Like, if you never heard a rotary before, you really wouldn't know what it is. But also, like Mr. Regular says on regular car reviews, there's triangles everywhere in the seats, on the bumpers, everywhere. But it's the shape of the rotary. One of the coolest things about the RX-8, I think, is the suicide doors. And when you open it up, it creates this big giant gaping hole, and it looks like the doors could just be removed and you just be in open air. But the back seat, somehow I've been back there before riding along, and it was not the best experience in my life, I can tell you that much. So what I've noticed is the RX-8 I would not say is a slow car, but just like the Miata, when you get on the highway, its capabilities are definitely dwarfed. So like on the highway, it's a very smooth, very calm sports car, which is funny because I can go into 5th or 6th gear and I'm not bothering anybody. I'm pretty unassuming, I blend in with most people, but you have just enough sportiness to be like, yeah, it's a sports car. But when you get on that back road compared to the highway, it's a different car, 100%. And that's where I think a lot of cars are overlooked. I think a lot of cars are judged by how does it drive in a straight line or on the highway, and then they don't give it a chance everywhere else. I think the Miata is a huge... It's singing me a song. The interior of the RX-8 is completely driver focused. The seating position's really good. You sit really low to the ground. The steering wheel feels solid. The materials in here for the time were great, but at the same time, the shifter itself is even a triangle. I just noticed that. The shifter feels pretty good, but with this car, what the owner Avery has done is kept everything mechanically stock. And what's so great about that? Well, that's kind of Mazda's philosophy. You buy a Miata, you don't really have to change the motor all that much to compete with a lot of people, but you do change the suspension. This has Stance X1 coils on it, nice and low to the ground. And man, does it help. I mean, it's super flat to the ground. It's awesome. Car really wakes up over 6,000 RPM. Listen to it. There's no other sound in the industry that sounds like this. Oh yeah. No, it rotated so easily. The nose like just completely went like this when I got back into throttle. That was nuts. I will say, the RX-8 did get a ton of handling awards when it came out. Tons of magazines, tons of journalists said it was one of the best handling cars they ever made. And I think a big part of that is the extremely light nose and also just the extreme balance of the car. I mean, I'm going like this and it's not ever gonna let up. I'm all the way in it and it just did that. And I'm barely in it, but then I floor it and it's still doing it. It's so easy. Just like the Miata I reviewed a few days ago, I think the word for a Mazda car with good suspension is easy, in a good way. There's so much involvement with the driver, just focused on driving, not focused on throttle control or any of that. You can just focus on your steering and you barely have to brake. Speaking of the brakes in the RX-8, they are awesome. It has better pads on this, so it creates a ton of brake dust, but you know, the benefits are just astronomical. I mean, you barely hit the brake. I'm gonna go around this corner real quick and then brakes. That was like a 20-mile-an-hour decrease. It's ridiculous. But this car really does reward you when you rev it out, which is really cool. When it comes to the RX-8, I think a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with it. Some people love how it looks and some people hate how it looks. And each model of the RX-8 had little tiny subtle differences. And this one is the Grand Touring model. And this had the navigation and a few other nifty little things inside. But the Grand Touring overall was probably the best spec you could get. The only thing about these is that there's a lot of chrome in the taillights. But the only other thing though is that this isn't white. And I never see the RX-8 in white, so I think that's pretty cool. Oh my God. It's so easy. It's ridiculous. Has a little shift light too, that's pretty cool. A lot of people say once they go rotary, they don't go back. I can definitely see why, because it just revs and revs and revs. But what's great about it is you keep beating on it, temperature is the same, everything's good. Oil's same temperature. And you just don't have much to worry about because he left this car stock. Now, I would be curious to see what this car would be like, say, with a turbocharger or anything of that nature. That's also the other thing about the RX-8 that a lot of people have complaints about, is that the brakes are squeaky. And here's the thing, though. There's nothing mechanically wrong, apparently. It's just they're squeaky. Once you get your momentum going, it's just a rocket everywhere you go. I think another testament to his car in particular is that he brings this thing on Blood Mountain and the mountain roads all the time and has never had a mechanical failure in this car out of all of his ownership. And he had a CRX as his first car, and you can see how that kind of evolved into this in a lot of ways, rear-wheel drive and all that good stuff. But unfortunately, his CRX was stolen. What a jerk. And it was his first car. Could you imagine your first car being stolen? I know I couldn't. You know what? Put in the comment section below if that happened to you. I want to see how many that happened to. Oh, my heart. The shift light really helps me, especially as somebody who doesn't drive a lot of rotaries, because I'm like, so where do I shift again? I'm not really sure, because it just, you get all the way to the top. It's weird seeing a needle on a tachometer go straight up, you know, instead of just kind of stopping down here or right here. It's just like, yep, you're just gonna go as far as you want, do whatever you want. But the shifter itself feels really good. This is a 6-speed transmission, but even with the 6-speed transmission, you still only get like 20 miles to the gallon, so I don't know how that works. 40 and go. Oh, wow. Still in second gear, which is ridiculous. Brake squeak? Here. No? No brake squeak. Okay, maybe it's because they're heated up a little bit. Oh, I spoke too soon. Beep. Halfway in the corner, full throttle. That is ridiculous. This is it. Ah, jeez. I just, wow, like, what amazes me is, like, when I was really young, I felt like everything had to have a zillion horsepower. And then the older I got, the more I understood why having a great handling car is amazing. And the RX-8, out of the box even, is one of the best handling cars on the market. Now, if you like rotaries or do you not like rotaries, I think that's your major selling point or not selling point. But if you want a good handling car, RX-8 is 100%. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, what I did back there was pretty damn awesome. And it felt very satisfying. There's not really any understeer either. So, like, even when I let off the gas, I wasn't going straight into a wall or straight into a tree. You know, it was just right around the corner, a little bit of inputs every now and then when I put more throttle in. I didn't even have to have that much throttle control because 90% of the time I was flooring it. So I think that's amazing. Mazda, you do some really cool things, and I think you're underappreciated. So one thing I do want to mention about the RX-8 is I'm really curious on why they didn't do a turbo rotary in this car because, well, the other ones were. The FD had a turbo model and the FC did too. So I just think that's really weird they didn't boost this car. Maybe it was for power distribution or, you know, putting the power down better. I just don't know. They didn't have the gentleman's agreement to go by like they did with the FD. So I just always thought that was kind of strange. So if you guys know why they did that, let me know. So you know what? On that note, I think I'm gonna end this video, and I wanna thank each and every one of you for watching this. Huge thanks to Avery for coming out, and I'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to subscribe, and have a great day. Okay, bye.